things. It's Ian from RT out here. Welcome to another Saturday morning thing. So it's Richard. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Ian, on this absolutely rotten, rainy morning.
Oh, we've got sun, clouds, and blue skies.
Bloody hell. We're only across the water. And
I know. It's not very warm. I mean, when we went out for a walk this morning, he was a bit reluctant to go out to start with. It was the nose out the door, but he did get round and he had a good little toddle this morning. So, yeah, it's quite sunny here at the moment.
Good.
So there we go. Anyway, today's top 10 is one that Richard set, and it's singles that failed to make the UK top 75, some of our favourites. Tough one to do, but as I've just said to Richard, once I got into the flow of it, I was okay. And I've got 5 bubbling unders, so...
I've got 5 as well, although one is a bit of a cheat, but I'll explain that at the very, very end. So it is.
Okie dokie, so let's, as I say, rock and roll. So you kick off.
Okay, well, what I tried to do was not pick totally obscure bands that have never had a hit in their life or debut singles, because often the debut single doesn't chart. It's usually the 3rd or 4th single that charts, although there is one of those or one obscure band, 2 obscure bands actually. But my number 10 is from 1982, and it's a mod revival band called Secret Affair. Now, they did have hits with My World, Sound of Confusion, Let Your Heart Dance, Time for Action, all brilliant mod singles. But they released a track in 82 called Lost in the Night, and in brackets, Mac the Knife. And it's the best of the whole lot. It is extremely catchy. There's good hard power pop. It's just an absolutely fantastic single. And I remember picking it up just off chance because I had a couple other Secret Affair singles way back in the day, and it was in the cheapy box for 10p or something. And I couldn't believe how good it was. And I played it to death, and it failed to make the 75. It's on their album Business as Usual. I've been at work with an album called that as well. But anyway, 1982, Lost in the Night by Secret Affair is my number 10.
Never heard that one, but I have obviously heard the ones that did chart. Mm-hmm. So that'll be an interesting one for me to listen to, because I've never heard of that one. Yeah. That's the idea of this, isn't it? These really obscure tracks. Now, my number 10 is a band that you've heard of, Marillion.
Right.
But this is from 1997, and it's off their Strange Engine album, and it's called A Man with a Thousand Faces. It just got into the top 100 at number 98.
Right, okay.
It is a lovely acoustic song, and it's one of the best songs off that album. But it just didn't do a carrot for them, which is a shame, because it's a really nice song. Steve Hogarth sounds wonderful on it. There's some lovely piano on it. But again, it's just one of them songs that just didn't do it for them.
Was it the first single from the album, or was it second or third, or do you know?
I think it was the first, actually.
Yeah, that's
but don't quote me on that, Marillion fans, because I mean, I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
Because I've got the album. So yeah, it's a shame, because it is a really nice song.
Oh, good choice. My number 9, I don't know if you're going to like this choice or not, even though you love the artist, and it's Mike Oldfield. And it's from 1977, and it's a standalone single, by the way. It wasn't in any album. And I love his rendition of the William Tell Overture, or as I call it, the Lone Ranger theme. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and if you see the video of it and his guitar playing, it's absolutely wonderful. I love the tune as it is. That's Rossini, I think, was the original composer, and it's absolutely brilliant. Although he shakes maracas or something, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Morris dancing, the way it goes. You almost get up and sort of wave your hanky about. But I think it's a fantastic track. And the first time I heard it was actually on the CD version of the complete Mick Oldfield. I had bought that album on vinyl in 1985 when it came out, and I really wanted it on CD. And I remember how I got it on CD. Petrol coupons. You used to have in the 90s these petrol coupons, and if you save them all up, you can send away for a CD or whatever. And it was actually listed. And I thought, oh, here's my chance. And I got it. And I didn't realize that William Tell Overture was on that album, on the CD version. Like Cuckoo Song is also on it, but not on the vinyl. I was just blown away by that version of the William Tell Overture. Absolutely love it. And it gets my number 9.
I've got the single.
Have you? So have I. I've got it now.
I've got the single. I love it as well. I think when I did my first oddments of Mike Oldfield, I think that's way up there, number 1 or 2 here. It is a great version of it. Again, I love the Morris dancing bit in it, which is it is a great choice. That is a fabulous record, and it's a good choice. My number 9 comes from 1970, and this didn't even get in the charts. And it's criminal what it didn't. It's from Elton John. It's Rock and Roll Madonna.
Mm-hmm.
How that didn't get in the charts, I just don't know, because I love that song. It's a good old-fashioned Elton John piano rock and roll. Thing is, when he did it live, the crowd loved it. You know, it was a popular song in his set, and it was in his set for, I mean, I think he played it on his last tour. So that song, but why it didn't get into the charts at all, it's just beyond me, because it is a fantastic song. That's why it's
the actual single version of that. You know, you think it's live because there's a live audience on it, but it's not. It's a studio recording. It's a bit like Benny and the Jets. It's a studio recording with the live bit put on. I'm not keen on that, and I'll tell you why. Because I think it's very bog standard when it comes to rock and roll. It's just your sort of generic rock and roll song, and I think it stands out a little bit in his catalogue, and it's forgotten about. Nobody remembers Rock and Roll Madonna.
No.
You know, some of those early singles were great, but it's okay. It's not bad. I've got it on actually an old Pickwick album of Elton John's called The Album, and I think that's all I've got it on vinyl anyway. I think it was added to the CD of the first Elton John album, but it sounds completely different to anything off that Elton John album, a second album actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a bad choice. My number 8, and believe it or not, these guys are 2 guys and 2 girls. I wonder who they could be.
Yeah.
Did not make the top 75, and it's ABBA. And in 1974, with the song So Long. Now, Waterloo had already been number 1. Okay. And then most countries released Honey Honey, whereas in the UK, they released a remix version of the previous single to Waterloo called Ring Ring. And it didn't do too well, 30-something. Then they released So Long, which has got a Waterloo rock and roll sort of glam rocky vibe to it. And I think it is absolutely magnificent. And it failed to chart altogether. And I don't understand why. And there's so many brilliant performances of it on YouTube, especially Frida. She knows how to let it rip when she's dancing. She's my girl, so she is. But anyway, it's a brilliant track. It's on the greatest hits, and it deserved to be it deserved to get in the top 20 or top 10, but wasn't to be. I actually prefer it to Waterloo, so that's So Long as my number 8.
Great choice. I remember the first time I heard it, obviously on the Greatest Hits album, and I still think it's one of the best songs on that album. It is fantastic. It's a good rocky. It is a little bit better than Waterloo.
I think it's better.
I think it's got a better riff to it, and you're right, Frida rocks on that.
She does.
Her vocals are just dynamite. What a great choice. Okay, my number 8 comes from the great Meatloaf. And this is from 1987, when his career was sort of on the downward path. And he released an album called Blind Before I Stop, which is not a particular great album. But the opening track and the title track, Blind Before I Stop, is a great track. And this actually got to number 89. But it's probably the best track on the album. It's even better than the one he did with, what's his name, St. Elmo Fire bloke.
John Parr?
Yeah, Rock and Roll Mercenaries. That was just very generic. Like a lot of the songs on there, the drum mix is terrible. But this song is good. It's got some lovely backing vocals. I think it was the Goth Sisters who went on tour. And they opened the tour with that track, and it's really good. It's got... Bob Keelick doing the drums on it. Alan Merrill plays on it. So it's a good old rocker, and it gets overlooked, I think.
Yeah, I have that album. I don't think it's that bad. I must revisit those 80s albums by Meatloaf. What's the other one? Bad Attitude and Midnight at Lost and Found. Those three tend to be forgotten all about. They sort of jump from Dead Ringer to Bat Out of Hell too. So they do. Yeah. I think it's because Jim Steinman wasn't involved. Well, he was involved in a couple of tracks on Bad Attitude.
Yeah, he was, yeah. See, I think that's a good album.
I think so. It's got Nowhere Fast on it. I love that. Absolutely love it. And Jumping the Gun, I think it's a great track as well.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yes, yeah, it was produced by Mac as well. So, good, well-produced album. Yeah, so that's why I've gone for that one, Blind Before I Stop.
Oh, very good. Well, my number 7 is from my favourite female solo artist, and that is Tanita Tikaram. Now, she hasn't had that many hits. She had a hit with top 10 with Good Tradition, and her most famous one was only a top 30. You'll know it as Twisted My Sobriety. And a couple other really, really good singles that, went around the 35 to 45 to 55 mark. But in 1992, she released the first track of her 11 Kinds of Loneliness album, and it's called You Make the Whole World Cry. The video is in black and white. The song starts off very, very sort of quietly, and then it builds to almost like even a little bit of a wall of sound feel to it. But it's absolutely fantastic song. So it is. The backing sounds are brilliant. It's really, really melodic. It's one of her best ever. But for some reason, by 1992, that sort of singer-songwriter, Tracy Chapman type, was sort of falling a little bit. Maybe not so much for Tracy Chapman, but definitely for Tanita Tikaram, who I think is magnificent. So You Make the Whole World Cry. I absolutely love it. Gorgeous black and white video as well. And that's my number 7.
Yeah, it is a nice song. It's probably one of the best on that album, to be quite honest. It's a wonderful song. As said, it's amazing that all these great songs are just not looked as singles, just because it wasn't a fan, was it? It'd gone off the boil, but yet a great choice and a really good song. Okay, my number 7 is Mike Oldfield again.
Oh, good.
This one comes from Crises, of course, 1983. Now, this got to the mighty position of number 95, and it's Shadow on the Wall. What a good track that is.
It's a good song. It is. I will say it was the wrong single. I think Foreign Affair should have been the follow-up to Moonlight Shadow, because I think it would have been another top 10 hit. But Shadow on the Wall is a great rock track. Yeah,
it's what's his nose sings it, Roger Chapman?
Yep, correct.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great rock singer, and I like the nice guitar work from Mike on that. Some lovely little tones on that. I love that track. It's one of my favourites off that album. But again, number 95.
Oh no! I'll tell you, the amount that sold, if it had sold the same today, it would probably have been a top 10 hit. So there you go. You had to sell a lot of records to get in the charts back then. Well, my number 6 you will not know, Iain, because it's a local band, and they released 2 singles in their lifetime, and it's from 1983. The second one was from 84, and the band's called Perfect Crime, and the song is called Brave. Now, I remember them playing it live, And I was shocked to see that they actually got on Tiswas to do Brave and a song on a Saturday morning on Tiswas. And then for their next single, they actually got on to Razzmatazz, if you can remember that. I think it was a
Yeah. Oh dear.
children's pop show,
Yeah.
but they played it well. And Brave, how to describe them, is a little bit like U2 meets Simple Minds. And the lead singer, Gregory Gray, who passed away a few years ago, he was the one that wrote all the material. Granted, they only had 2 singles, and then Gregory Gray went on to have a solo career, which didn't do too well. He released about 4 or 5 albums or whatever it was. But Brave is an absolute brilliant track with fantastic backing vocals. That wasn't me stuttering, by the way. There's a lot of ba-ba-bas in it.
Mm.
And if you're putting up the video for it, put the one that I uploaded to YouTube about 10 years ago. And it's the 2 songs together, Brave and I Feel Like an Eskimo, and Brave is the first one on. So if anybody wants to hear it, it's absolutely brilliant. And I remember getting a comment, it must have been about 5 years ago, saying, "Thank you so much, you have made my day." It's obviously from somebody local because he's been searching for this for ages. I think there's a 12-inch version as well that's up on YouTube. Don't touch it because it's not as good. So my number 6 is Perfect Crime and Brave.
Yeah, so are they literally local to you?
Yeah, they're just about Achadui, which is part of the Coleraine borough. So you're talking about a 5-minute drive maximum.
Wow. Yeah, I shall look forward to that. And I will put your video in the playlist.
Yeah, get an extra view.
Yeah. Might get a few views. Anyway, my number 6 is from 2015. It's from Jeff Lynne's ELO, and it's When I Was a Boy, which I think is a wonderful track, and it didn't even chart.
My God, the album did well, but When I Was a Boy is a great song. It's the best song off that album, by the way. That's Alone in the Universe is the album, isn't it? I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, great track.
Yeah, I remember whenever that came out, and there was a big "oh, he's back" with. I couldn't understand why it was Jeff Lynne's ELO. I thought, oh, come on, man, just call it ELO, because Zoom was ELO, and it's more or less the same, just Jeff Lynne. And no, Jeff Lynne's ELO. Don't understand why, just ELO for me. Well, my number 5, and I mentioned this band in my rundown of the 1980s albums, and again, this is one you probably won't heard of, and it's a Scottish band called Fingerprints, and they had a single called Bulletproof Heart, which failed to chart. It's on their 1980 album, Distinguishing Marks, which I think is absolutely brilliant. It's like power pop, and but the actual track Bulletproof Heart has got a real good guitar feel to it. I don't know how to describe it. It's a little bit different to the rest of your chunky power pop songs on the rest of the album. This one has got the most gorgeous guitar in it, and his vocals are very atmospheric type song. And the guy, is it Jimmy O'Neill, who wrote it, he formed another band later on in the 80s called the Silencers, and he re-recorded the song under the name The Silencers as well, and it's a really good version, and I think it failed to chart. But Bulletproof Heart, absolutely brilliant. It is on YouTube, so you'll easily get it. Listen to that, brilliant.
Yeah, I shall look forward to that. It's all about discovering new bands. My number 5. Now, this is bang up to date. This is 2023.
Right, okay.
And it was the good album from Sparks. And the title track, The Girl Who's Crying in Her Latte, which is a fabulous song, and it didn't chart. The album did very well, but the single, I love the single, I love the video. And I loved it when they performed it. Was it at Glastonbury? And she came out and did the dance, and that was
what's her name? I know she's famous. Kate Blanchett, yeah.
I thought that was wonderful. I mean, she was brilliant in the video. I love Ron just sitting there wiping the tables. It's a fun spark song and a fun video, and it should have done. That should have been a huge hit.
That should have been, most definitely. Well, my number 4 was a huge hit in America, but it failed to chart over here, and it's from 1986, and it's my favorite track of this band from the 80s. And it's the Moody Blues and the track Your Wildest Dream, which I think is magnificent. It's on their Other Side of Life album, which is it's not a great album. It's very sort of 80s produced, and the songs aren't that brilliant. But the track itself, Your Wildest Dream, is absolutely wonderful. Justin Hayward's song. And it's got a fantastic video as well. Whenever they go back in time, whenever he was seeing this girl, then years later, she's keeping on following them about, but he doesn't realize that she's in the crowd and all this. It's really, really good. I absolutely love it. I think it got to number 10 or 11 or something in America. But over here, it failed completely. Moody Blues, Your Wildest Dream.
Yeah, I like that song. It's probably one of their best songs for that period.
Yeah.
Great choice. Right, you're going to like my number 4. It's 1977. And it's from T-Rex.
Right.
And it's Andy in the Underworld. Why didn't that chart? Because it was... This was the revival of the classic sounding T-Rex.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best songs on that album. Again, the album did reasonably well for him.
Yeah.
But the single didn't. And I mean, this should have been in the top 10. It's up there with the, Jeepster. It's got that chuggy sound to it. And I know I haven't seen him do it live, but when I saw T-Rex do it, it's brilliant. It's just an absolutely brilliant track.
And it was promoted quite a bit as well. It was promoted on the song or the TV show Get It Together. And I had a sneaky feeling it might have been promoted on Top of Pops. Not 100% sure on that one, though. But no, it's an absolutely brilliant song. I nearly had it as my bubbling under, but I picked another one instead. So I did. But talking of T-Rex, whenever you talk of T-Rex, you think of another group, and that's my number 3, and it's Slade. And it's from 1976, and it's the title track of their Nobody's Fools album called Nobody's Fool. Well, not quite the title track, drop the S. This was the 3rd single off that album, and it was a different sound for Slade. They had In for a Penny and the very sort of chunky Let's Call It Quits. This was their most soulful song they had released to date, and there was female backing vocals on it. And it's the best song on that album, for me, without a shadow of a doubt, but it failed completely. There is a video of it, which is on YouTube, and you see the girl singers there actually in performance with them as well. And I just think it's a magnificent track. And whenever I rank the Slade singles, way back a few years ago, I had it, I think it was number 5 or number 6. So that's how much I think of that song. Nobody's Fool is absolutely brilliant. That's my number 3.
Definitely agree with you there. It's one of the best songs on that album. It is fantastic. It's different, but when they came up with different, it was always good different.
Yeah.
Well, you go back to Far, Far Away. That was different, and that was brilliant. Yeah. So, fantastic. Yeah, I don't know why that didn't chart, because I think it was... I might think it may be something to do that Slade was sort of old hat by 1977.
That was exactly it. So it was. It was the start of punk rock, and Slade were glam rockers. That's probably why the T-Rex one didn't chart either. Down in the Underworld.
Yeah, they're great songs. Well, my number 3 comes from Bruce Springsteen. From 2007, and Radio Nowhere.
Right.
Again, didn't chart. One of the best album songs. Can't remember which album it's on now, but I love that track, and he plays it, and it's brilliant live. It's a popular song within the fans, but they didn't get it in the charts.
I don't know it, so I can't comment on it. I'm trying to think. 2007. I know Devils of Dust was 2005, so it must have been the one after
I
that.
think it's Magic, maybe Magic,
It could have been that. Yeah,
which
could
is
have
a
been that.
very good album. It was one of his better late albums,
Yeah.
and it just didn't do a carrot.
Mhm. Well, my number two, and you've already mentioned them, but it's without the Jeff Lynne in the front, and it's just the Electric Light Orchestra. And it's my third favourite ELO single, and it's The Way Life's Meant to Be from Time, which did get to number 82 or 83 in 1982. But the problem was it was the fourth single from that album, and the third single itself was a double A side. So technically, it was the fifth A side to come off that album. But it is a magnificent track. It's a very acoustic track. Again, the backing vocals are fantastic, and there's castanets and everything on it, and I just absolutely love it. It's so melodic. That's my favorite track off that album. So that's my number two, The Way Life's Meant to Be from Time.
Great track. It's one of my favourite tracks on that album. I just love that lovely acoustic sound. Yeah. It's a very sort of 1950s sort of in the Garden of Eden. You remember that song? It's got that sort of beat to it, but he's just taken that sort of 50s beat and made it relevant for the day. Very clever what Jeff used to do with songs like that, and it is a fantastic song. Couldn't agree with you more. Now, my number two is from one of my favourite rock bands, Deep Purple. Now, in 1996, Richie Blackmore had gone. In come Steve Morse and the Perpendicular album from 1996. And the song that didn't chart, and it's a great song off that album, it's Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming, which is a song that Ian Gillan wrote about when he was on tour. His wife was trying to get a message to him, and they wrote it down wrong, and that's what he said, I feel like screaming. It's probably the last time we got Ian Gillan's dulcet screams on a song. It's got some great guitar work on it. It's got that Spanish feel to it because he was in, I think, Spain at the time. It's my favourite track off that album. And it should have charted, even if it got in the top 75 but it didn't even make the top 100.
I suppose those sort of heavy rock, almost heavy metal bands didn't chart that much in the mid-90s anymore. Like you think of that around 1981, 82, that would probably have charted. You know, whenever you had your Motorheads and your AC/DCs and all getting in the charts. But Deep Purple, they must have had so many members come and go in that band.
Yeah, that would have been Deep Purple Mark 6 or Mark 5. No, I think it was Mark 6.
Yeah. I only know a couple of their albums, the very, very early 70s ones, like In Rock, Fireball, and of course Machine Head, which I like all three. So I do. Well, my number one, and this will be very, very surprising. Now, I will say it did chart as part of an EP, but it was the last track on the EP. It wasn't the lead-off track. But my number one is from 1965, and it's Simon & Garfunkel, The Sound of Silence. Never charted. Was released here, never charted. It did chart by The Bachelors, but not by Simon & Garfunkel. Got to number one in America, of course. That was the song that got Paul Simon back from England to sort of work again with Art Garfunkel to get the Sounds of Silence LP. But the song itself over here did nothing. And it's hard to believe because it's one of the most famous songs of the 60s, but never charted in the UK. It did feature on the Mrs. Robinson EP, which charted in 1968, but that was to do with The Graduate. But the single itself, complete and utter flop.
It's a shame because it's a wonderful song.
That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Totally agree. I can't really add to that because you've said everything that I would say about it. So my number one is from my favourite band.
Ooh, right, okay.
And it's not one of the old hits. Well, right. The older songs. It's off their last album, Backbone. which came out in 2022. And it's the brilliant Cut Me Some Slack. It's proper boogie quo, and it would have a track that Rick Parfitt would have given it a thumbs up, because it's what I call a proper Rick track.
Yeah.
Richie Malone, people give him some stick, but he's a great guitarist, and Rick approved. It was him that wanted him in the band. It's got that great rhythm, and Francis is great. You've got Andy Bell doing guitar on it as well. And why didn't it do anything? I don't know. So, yeah.
It's a very good album, Backbone. I bought it, so did, and I really do enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, no, good choice. Good choice. Right, I have 5 bubbling unders, which I'll race through. The first
you don't
one
have to race through these days.
I don't know. The first one is T-Rex, and I've gone for the song after Dundee and Underworld, Celebrate Summer. And the reason I've gone for that is because it was actually released in a month or so, or 2 months, a month before he died. So I would have thought that they would have promoted that once he died to get that song into the charts, because it is like a new wavy type song. It's not really the T-Rex boogie, and it's very, very, very catchy. But I think the problem around that time was Mark Bolan died in September of 1977. All of September, all of October, all of November was taken up by one person, and that was Elvis Presley, because he died in August. So he didn't really get much of a chance. But I think it should have been reissued. But then I'm thinking again, he dies in September, and you're sort of pushing a song called Celebrate Summer, which is a month gone, really. So for me, the single should have been released in June of that year, and I think it would have actually become a hit if it had been promoted. Because even in August, you're coming near the end of the summer, and you don't write songs about summer anymore. You're starting to think about autumn. But it's a cracking little number, and I absolutely love it, and it should have been a hit. My next one is the Kinks' Sweet Lady Genevieve, and it's from Preservation Act 1, 1973. Acoustic based with harmonica, really, really catchy Ray Davies song, really, really good, deserved to be in a hit. But by that time, the Kinks were not the force they were in the charts. Their albums were still great, but this one failed completely. The next one is from 1977, and it's The Sweet, and the song is called Fever of Love, which I think is a real good sort of galloping type number, which is extremely catchy. It's one of the Sweet Zone songs. It was a band-written song. Kind of reminds me a little bit like Susie Quatro's She's in Love with You. It's got that sort of galloping feel to it, and I think it's absolutely magnificent, and it's from their Off the Record album, but it failed completely. My fourth one is from 1991, and I'm not 100% sure this was actually released in the UK. I think it was, and it's by the Bee Gees, and it's a huge big ballad called The Only Love, and it's from their High Civilization album, and it's an absolutely brilliantly constructed love song. Really, it's a big power ballad, but it's absolutely wonderful, and it deserved to chart if it had been released here. It says it was released in Europe, but it didn't chart in the UK, which means that it must have been available in the UK, because they wouldn't have said that otherwise.
No.
UK part of Europe, so I'm not 100% sure. And my last one is the cheat one, because it actually did chart at number 49 in 2016 after his death, but I am counting this because in 1972, David Bowie's first single from the RCA label was Changes, and it failed completely to chart. And it's one of his most famous songs. It gets on every compilation, and it was only after he died that a download or a stream or whatever it was put it up to number 49 in the charts. But for me, it was a flop. And it's not only, okay, it was his first single on RCA, but he had many singles before that, and he did have success. Don't forget that Space Holiday in 1969 was a top 10 hit. So he was known, but Changes for some reason did not chart, and it's unbelievable, really. It did feature as the B-side on that Maximilian single, Space Holiday, that got to #1. It was the B-side along with Velvet Goldmine, but that doesn't count. So changes, David Bowie.
Yeah, there's some good ones there. I mean, the changes. It is. It's a. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of Bowie live, and that's always on there.
That is, yeah.
Yeah. Again, the Sweet Song, a great song.
Fantastic.
Yeah, some really good bubbling unders there. Now mine, this is a right old mixture here. My first one comes from 1984, off Scorpions, off the Love at First Sting, and it's Rock You Like a Hurricane, a big sort of anthem, rock anthem, that only got to number 78. The thing was, it did better in America, and it was always on MTV.
Yeah. But America in general were more prone towards those sort of rock bands than they were over here,
Yeah.
I think.
My next one's from 1982, and it's another heavy metal band, and it's Judas Priest, and Some Heads Are Gonna Roll. A great song off the Point of Entry album, I think, which is a pretty mediocre album, but that is one of the highlights. And again, he got to number 97. Now, my next one is from 1982. And it's from my favourite female artist, Kate Bush. And it's There Goes a Tenor.
Love it. Love it.
What a quirky little number that is. And it got to number 98. I just don't understand that. Now, the next one is from 1987. And it's from Alice Cooper. And it's got to number 80. And it's Teenage Frankenstein, which is a lot better than Poison.
Yeah. I remember it when it was out as well.
Yeah, what a great track. And my next one is really a bizarre one. It's from Jean-Michel Jarre.
Right, okay.
And it's on the same end, the Cousteau album that we mentioned last week. But it's the released Calypso as a single. And I love it because it's got that sort of Caribbean steel drum, kettle drum, whatever the sound. And didn't even chart.
There you go.
So there we are. That was an interesting one.
I enjoyed that, so it did. You know, it took me a while to get going. I started a couple of weeks ago and had about 3 or 4. And then, as you said, once you start thinking, once you get a couple more, they start coming on and on and on. I ended up with about 15. So,
well, as always, these are just fun, and we haven't come up with another for our next one yet. I'm sure.
Yeah, well, there's something in the pipeline, but we won't commit to it as yet.
No. Yes, we've got to sort it out. And this is the first time we've used StreamYard as well, which has been good. I'll be back on Monday. I'm doing CCS, which we all know for that great Top of the Pops theme. Got a bit of Monster.
And they did, and the band played the Boogie, which I love. I love that track. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. And also we've got a birthday top 10. So it's a busy old day. That's from Ralph, who's in Italy, but he was doing the US. So it only gives us one thing to do, and it's goodbye for me.
And it's goodbye. Oops, the other way around now from him.
Okay, folks. See you all soon. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.